My ex-boss thought he was untouchable. I proved him wrong with 1,000 paper cuts. And then some. The day Marcus fired me, he didn't just dismiss an employee. He delivered a theatrical performance. He leaned back in his expensive leather chair, a slow, condescending smirk stretching across his face, his eyes glinting with a perverse satisfaction. "You're too ambitious, Clara," he'd purred, the words dripping with manufactured concern, "and far too vocal about it. This company, Clara, doesn't need disruptors. It needs order and silence." He thought he'd silenced me permanently, shattered my career, and utterly crushed my spirit. He had absolutely no idea. He just ignited a 5-year-long, meticulously planned project of exquisite, quiet vengeance that would unravel his entire carefully constructed life. My ambition wasn't just for myself. It was a driving force born from a genuine belief in innovation and progress, a stark contrast to Marcus's stagnant, fear-driven management. He was a micromanaging tyrant, a shameless credit stealer, and a master manipulator who took perverse joy in watching talented people squirm under his thumb. He'd systematically dismantled every promising initiative I championed, every fresh idea that dared to threaten his petty kingdom, culminating in my public humiliation and termination. I walked out of that opulent, lifeless office building not with tears of despair, but with a cold, terrifyingly clear resolve. Marcus had stripped me bare, my job, my hard-earned professional reputation, my very sense of worth. I swore, then and there, I would take it all back. And then some. But not with a quick, satisfying bang. No. My revenge would be a whisper, 1,000 insidious cuts, each one delivered with surgical precision.
The foundation of my fury, seeds of doubt and discontent. My plan began subtly, almost imperceptibly, even to me at first, evolving organically from the embers of my rage. I didn't want a quick, messy explosion. I wanted a slow, agonizing unraveling, a dismantling of Marcus's empire piece by agonizing piece. He valued two things above all else: his absolute control and his meticulously curated public reputation. My revenge would target precisely those vulnerabilities. The first step was to not just survive, but to thrive. I joined a direct competitor, not just any competitor, but InnovateX, a company Marcus openly despised for its agile approach and disruptive technologies. I poured every ounce of my energy into my new role, working harder than I ever had, driven by a dual purpose. I wasn't just building a new career, I was meticulously studying the intricate dance of corporate espionage, understanding strategic leverage, and, most importantly, cultivating genuine relationships. I specialized in what Marcus fundamentally lacked: genuine networking based on mutual respect, cutting-edge market analysis that predicted future trends, and, crucially, an unwavering loyalty to my new team. Over the next 2 years, I meticulously identified and approached 3 of his top-performing, most disgruntled employees. These weren't just random hires, they were brilliant engineers, visionaries whose groundbreaking work Marcus had consistently overworked, undervalued, and outright stolen credit for. I didn't lure them with just better salaries, though those were certainly a bonus. They came to me for respect, for autonomy, for a chance to finally see their ideas implemented and celebrated, not buried under Marcus's ego. Each departure from his company was a small, almost undetectable tremor in his seemingly impenetrable empire, a subtle drain of talent that he simply couldn't afford to lose. Each time one of them accepted my offer, I felt a small, triumphant chill of satisfaction.
Weaponizing silence, the digital trail of destruction. Next, I focused on the silence Marcus so cherished, his belief that his internal tyranny was safely contained within his corporate walls. Marcus was utterly obsessed with proprietary data, with keeping his company's internal workings a completely opaque black box. What he didn't know was that, even before my firing, I had subtly, innocuously encouraged his IT department to adopt an open-source communication tool he dismissed as child's play. He thought it was brilliant for fostering casual team camaraderie, praising its encryption and its feature that purged messages after 24 hours. Perfect for fostering team spirit, he'd boasted. Perfect for sharing frustrations, my old colleagues soon discovered. And crucially, perfect for documenting his tyrannical behavior, his ludicrous demands, his blatant credit-stealing antics, believing them safe in the ephemeral ether. They weren't. My new company, InnovateX, under my quiet suggestion and strong technical backing, had been developing a revolutionary new data analytics tool. One of its killer features? The ability to forensically recover purged data from commonly used open-source communication platforms for internal compliance and historical record-keeping. It was technically legal, operating in a murky gray area of corporate ethics, and devastatingly effective. It was the perfect silent weapon, meticulously collecting years of his employees' documented grievances, his unsent emails, his deleted memos, a digital paper trail of his true character. I knew what I had, and I knew exactly when and how I'd unleash it. The grand unveiling, a stage for ruin. The final, climactic piece of my puzzle was Marcus's most pronounced Achilles heel, his colossal, unshakable ego, and his insatiable love for the spotlight. He adored industry conferences, especially the ones where he could pontificate unchallenged, basking in the manufactured glow of his own perceived brilliance. InnovateX was growing rapidly, becoming a serious contender in the market. We had secured a prime speaking slot at the annual Tech Summit, the very same prestigious event where Marcus Sterling was scheduled as the keynote speaker. It was too perfect. I, Clara Hayes, volunteered to introduce him. My former colleagues, the few I still kept in touch with and who knew snippets of my story, thought I was mad. "Why, Clara?" they'd asked, their voices laced with concern. "Why give him more airtime? Why give him any quarter?" My smile was genuine, but cold. "Because," I'd explained, "I'm not giving him airtime. I'm taking it, and then I'm taking everything else." The day of the summit finally arrived. The air in the convention hall crackled with anticipation, a nervous energy that mirrored my own controlled exhilaration. I walked onto that stage, the harsh glare of the spotlights momentarily blinding, the low murmur of hundreds of industry leaders, investors, and competitors filling the vast room. Marcus was in the front row, directly in my line of sight, beaming, preening, ready for his grand, self-aggrandizing introduction. I gripped the microphone, my heart thrumming a victorious rhythm against my ribs. "Good morning. I began, my voice clear and confident, echoing through the speakers. I'm Clara Hayes, CEO of InnovateX, and it's an honor to introduce our next speaker. I paused, letting the silence stretch, letting the weight of the moment sink into every corner of the room. Many of you know Marcus Sterling as a titan of industry, a visionary, a leader. I let my eyes sweep the room, making eye contact with key journalists, with former colleagues who held their breath, and finally locking onto Marcus's now slightly less confident, slightly more wary smile. What many of you might not know, I continued, my voice dropping, yet perfectly amplified, imbued with a quiet power, is the true cost of that vision, the true price of that leadership. A sharp, almost imperceptible click, and the massive projector screen behind me flickered to life. Instead of Marcus's meticulously prepared, self-congratulatory bio, the first image appeared. A screenshot of an email, clearly from Marcus's official account, dated years ago. It was a thinly veiled threat to an employee, demanding they work through a dire family emergency or face immediate termination. A ripple went through the room. Another slide clicked into place. A recovered chat log, snippets of his condescending remarks, his dismissive attitudes, followed by another showing ideas he blatantly stole from junior staff members, only to present them as his own at a previous conference. Each slide was annotated, quietly, clinically, with recovered from internal communications logs via InnovateX's proprietary data analytics platform. The murmur grew louder, turning into an audible gasp as I methodically clicked through, exposing his systemic bullying, his blatant credit theft, his profound disregard for ethics and basic human decency. The data analytics tool was working its terrible magic, projecting unassailable, irrefutable proof of his true character, or lack thereof, for the entire industry to witness. Marcus's face, I remember distinctly, drained of all color, turning a sickly gray. His confident smile twisted into a grimace of pure, unadulterated horror. He tried to stand, to shout, to object, but security personnel, already alerted to the potential for a technical malfunction, were swiftly moving in, responding to the growing disturbance in the front row. "This is libel," he bellowed, his voice cracking with desperation. "These are fabrications! You can't prove this!" I met his frantic gaze, my own eyes cold and unwavering, reflecting the steely resolve I had cultivated for 5 long years. "Fabrications, Marcus?" I asked, my voice ringing with a conviction I hadn't known I possessed. "Or 1,000 paper cuts from the very silence you imposed, a testament to the truth you tried so desperately to bury?" I took a deep breath, the climax upon us, the air thick with tension. "You thought you could silence ambition. You thought you could control every narrative, every voice. But the truth, much like genuine ambition, has a way of finding its voice. And today, Marcus, it found mine." I presented the final slide. A concise summary of the multiple class action lawsuits now being filed against his company by his former, talented employees, leveraging the very data I had helped recover. The room erupted. The applause wasn't just for me, not entirely, but for the dramatic unraveling of a corporate charlatan, for the justice finally being served. Marcus Sterling, the self-proclaimed titan, was ignominiously escorted out, his keynote speech utterly eclipsed by the public implosion of his reputation, his legacy shattered by his own making.
Revenge, when served cold, requires not just patience and precision, but an intimate, almost forensic understanding of your opponent's deepest vulnerabilities. True justice isn't always about shouting the loudest or engaging in a messy, immediate confrontation. Sometimes it's about meticulously planting the seeds of their own downfall, nurturing them in the shadows, and then stepping back to let the consequences of their own actions choke them. The best revenge isn't solely about what you take from them. It's profoundly about what you build for yourself, the growth and strength you cultivate in the process. I didn't just expose Marcus. I built a reputation for integrity, fostered a loyal team, and cultivated a career far stronger and more meaningful than anything he ever tried to destroy. The silence he sought to impose became the very medium through which his truth was revealed.